What does it mean to create something magnificent and expect nothing in return? Today, we're exploring how Babette's feast reveals the quiet power of women's artistry in a world that refuses to see it. Babette's feast follows Babette Hersant, a French refugee who flees the Paris counter-revolutionary bloodshed and arrives at a remote Danish village during a storm. Two elderly sisters, Martine and Philippa, take her in as their housekeeper. For 14 years, Babette cooks their plain meals of bread soup and salted fish, gradually improving it and asking for nothing. Then she wins 10,000 francs in the French lottery. Instead of returning to Paris, she requests to prepare a real French dinner for the congregation in honor of their late minister's 100th birthday. As exotic ingredients arrive, the villagers grow suspicious, fearing indulgence. They vow to eat without enjoying. What unfolds is a meal so exquisite it dissolves old grudges and reveals Babette's true identity as the legendary chef of Café Anglais. It is then revealed that she has spent her entire fortune on this single night. The film begins in scarcity. The village survives on the plainest, blandest food imaginable, and the sister's father preached that earthly pleasures were empty illusions. When Babette arrives, she quietly adapts and gradually improves the tasteless meals without complaint. Her humility conceals her genius. For 14 years, no one suspects that the woman peeling potatoes once commanded the finest kitchen in Paris. The film shows how women's labor, especially domestic work, becomes invisible even when it sustains entire communities. Babette transforms simple ingredients, manages finances, and earns gratitude, yet her artistry remains hidden. This invisibility isn't accidental. Women's creativity, particularly in traditionally feminine spaces like cooking, often goes unrecognized because it's seen as service, not art. When Babette finally reveals her skill through the feast, the contrast is stunning. The villagers sit stiffly as turtle soup, quail and puff pastry, and champagne arrive. But as the meal progresses, something miraculous happens. Old grudges fade, laughter returns, and years of conflict dissolve. The food becomes communion, breaking barriers that sermons never could. General Lowenhelm, the only guest who recognizes the meal's brilliance, recalls that this chef had the ability to transform a dinner into a kind of love affair, one that made no distinction between bodily appetite and spiritual appetite. His words capture what makes Babette's art radical. She refuses to separate the physical from the spiritual. In a community that distrusts pleasure, her feast becomes an argument for joy as grace. After the meal, the sisters discover Babette has spent her entire fortune. When they express concern, she simply replies that a dinner for 12 at Café Anglais would cost 10,000 francs. She was the head chef there, celebrated and renowned. Yet she has no regret. When Philippa whispers that now she'll be poor again, Babette answers quietly, "A great artist is never poor." This moment cuts to the heart of the film's feminist critique. Babette's artistry has always existed, but only through total self-sacrifice does it become visible. The feast isn't just a meal, but a protest against a world that would let her talent disappear entirely. The film contrasts Babette's fate with the men in the story. Pepin, the opera singer, fled Denmark, heartbroken, but continued his career. General Lowenhelm pursued worldly success and recognition. Both men had choices. Babette, exiled and alone, had none. Yet her art achieved something theirs never could: transformation without expectation of reward. Babette's feast asks a question that haunts many women artists. What happens when your greatest work goes unseen? Philippa once had a voice that could have conquered Paris, but she gave it up for her father, singing only for a tiny congregation. Her talent, like Babette's, remained hidden. The film doesn't condemn these women, but mourns the world that demanded such sacrifice. Babette's final feast becomes a meditation on creation itself. She doesn't cook for fame or money. She cooks because it's who she is. The meal is both an offering and a declaration. Art doesn't need an audience to be real. Even if the villagers had kept their vow of silence, Babette would still have created something beautiful. The act of making was enough. This philosophy feels particularly resonant for women, whose creative work is so often dismissed or erased. How many poems were written and burned? How many meals were masterpieces that disappeared the moment they were consumed? Babette's story honors that hidden labor and insists it matters. So yes, Babette's quiet life wasn't emptiness, but devotion to the sisters that took her in. Her art, once hidden, became her prayer. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.